5 years ago, my first R-rated movie theater experience, Terminator Dark Fate, came out. Um, and again, this is like the first movie I watched in the theater to be R-rated. I was 11 when this movie came out, and I loved it when it came out. I got it on DVD for my birthday. And I watched it like twice in 2020, but I have not got around it since then until today for its 5 year anniversary. Um, so how does it hold up 5 years later, guys? It feels longer than it is. Um, I still enjoy the movie, but it's not a perfect movie. I'll save the infamous scene for last. Um, so in this movie, it takes place after the events of T2. This is like doing what Halloween 2018 does, where it retcons the franchise and continues with the original. In this case, with T2, so it ignores Terminator 3, maybe Salvation, I don't know. Genesis, of course, and the Sarah Connor Chronicles, unfortunately. Um, and it brings back Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor, who has been kind of in a dark place around Mexico, where our lead in which about Rev 9 targeting our new Sarah Connor, Danny Ramos, where she gets protected by Grace, who is the soldier from 2042, trying to fight a new AI program called Legion, but was injured a lot badly, and so she has some machine experiments on her, kind of like Marcus Wright from Salvation. And they team up with Carl, the new Terminator Arnold, that has a family, and it begin to experience human emotions, and has an interesting feud with Sarah Connor, which we'll get into in a minute. The best part of this film easily is it's in honestly what I was gonna say is like the two best parts of it are kind of in between, kind of divisive to me, is the acting and the action, because the acting for the most part is good. Linda Hamilton is awesome to see, a 60-year-old version of her, and still fighting a lot, especially when shooting the Rev 9 or fighting it. As of course, Arnold still looking amazing and fighting at 72 years old, still fighting. Though I don't know whether or not he did or it was a stunt double for some action scenes, but he still does kick machines butts. He does fight Rev 9 on some occasion at the third act of the movie. He does have has an interesting conversation with our three main leads when he gets introduced about like what he's been doing after killing John Connor, where he starts to experience like how it's like to be a human and having his family of his own. It's kind of like Guardian from Genesis, but more kind of tragic in some occasion. And his sacrifice, where he pays tribute to John, is kind of like a very epic sacrifice. And Rev 9, who is the main villain of this movie, who's played by Gabriel Luna, who plays Ghost Rider in the MCU, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to be more specific. He's decent. He does kind of tries to be intimidating. He does a decent job at it sometimes. And I do thought his power where he can like separate his skeleton form and where he fights alongside the skeleton form. That was a pretty cool power. Though I feel like he's mostly kind of like a no like a another version of T1000, which I was gonna bring up. Like a lot of the new things that happen in Dark Fate are pretty much like the newer versions of the older characters in movies. I mean, this is supposed to be a legacy sequel, like Force Awakens, Tron Legacy, and the Scream 2022 movie. And of course Halloween as well. Um, but it feels very noticeable. Like Danny Ramos is obviously supposed to be like the Sarah Connor or John Connor of modern day, where she's like the supposed to be like the girl that's being hunted by the Terminator, and is a big important person for the future war. Uh, Grace is kind of like in between Carl Reese and Marcus Wright, where she's like the protector of our lead character, where she is actually a human with some machine experiments. Um, but admittedly she was a very cool character. Not only Mackenzie Davis did a very excellent job in the role, but she has some fun action sequences where it's like her fight with the police, or at the opening, or we're fighting Rev 9 either at the warehouse. I was gonna was it the warehouse? Yeah. Or like the over the top car chase that, whilst is kind of repetitive since we have seen car chase in Terminator many times, is kind of the most craziest and most bonkers of the car chase. Even the plane scene from in the third act is also kind of goofy, especially at the back door. The plane is open when I feel and Sarah and the Terminator are close to it, where I feel like in real life they would like float fall from the plane and probably either fall to the water or worse, die. But Mackenzie Davis as Grace did an amazing job. Honestly, she's probably my favorite character in the movie. I really enjoyed her in the movie. I also thought her weakness, not her weakness. I like how she gets weak at some occasion. I also thought the scene where she slices a fly, that was a very impressive scene. That she is really a very good at looking, I guess. Um, and So I did talk about the acting, the action. What else is there to talk about? Um, and overall, Terminator Dark Fate is a fun, amazing, and thrilling action movie. As a much superior Terminator film compared to Salvation, Genesis, and Rise of the Machines. Though it still doesn't have the same levels as T2 or Terminator 1. And this movie was supposed to be like the first installment of a new trilogy that is not gonna happen. James Cameron is gonna reboot everything and try and make a new spin on it. But let's end this on a big note. The big controversial infamous scene, the opening, where John Connor, who is like the child John Connor now, is played by Edward Furlong in T2, though it's clearly a stunt kid playing John Connor, gets shot by young Arnold Carl in Mexico in front of Sarah Connor, and dies at the hands with the uh with like on Sarah Connor's hands, like trying to hold him while his fortunately his body was dead. My thoughts on this scene is that I feel like rewatching this now, like today, I feel like this scene was kind of anticlimactic and kind of like a not a very good way to end John Connor's character arc in these movies. Especially considering that if this movie came out in 2003, because Terminator 3 came out in 2003, I feel like it would have made it even worse and would have made John Connor's story pointless. Where John Connor was pretty much like the big character focus of these movies. John Connor was like mentioned in like in the first movie where he's kind of like and then Terminator 2 he physically shows up in it, and he plays an important part to the Terminator story, both in the present time in these movies and the future. And while T3, T4, and T5 didn't do John Connor justice, I feel like Dark Fate would have done it if they were to bring back Edward Furlong as an adult John Connor. I feel like this movie could have found a way to bring him back. But no, they just killed him off. And I heard that was James Cameron's idea, which is kind of weird. And also, I want to end this also on my thoughts on the Terminator Easter eggs. The one that I thought was kind of like, oh, that's awesome. The one scene where Rev 9 falls down of the plane and says, "Sorry for destroying your crap." While that scene was while he was saying that, you can hear the music, a music that really like that you heard familiar. That's because that the song or music you hear that plays throughout in that scene is from T2's the scene where Arnold enters the bar. That music that plays in that scene is in this scene in this movie, which hearing that was awesome to hear. That was very awesome to hear. I also thought the "I'll be back" from Sarah Connor was okay. It was clearly just a callback. It was clearly was. Also, I'm really surprised they never done an "Hasta la Vista, Baby" callback. I mean, Terminator 3 was the closest one, but it was more because John Connor was confused about if the TA-50 is the same Terminator from T2. But other than that, they never said that line ever in these movies. Even though it's the most iconic line in these films, next to "I'll be back." So I'm surprised they never did that. Overall, Terminator Dark Fate, fun action movie, but for the most, but it has some flaws in it. I would watch it if I wanted to, rewatch it if I wanted to, but it will not have the same influence as T1 or T2.